Astonishingly, people have begun to call what they want to believe the truth again. In the name of democracy, the crowds have convinced themselves that those they elect embody justice, wisdom, and truth. Once, in the Agora of Athens, I proclaimed, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Yet now, in this era, the name Trump was celebrated without scrutiny, chosen amidst applause and cheers. The populace ceased to think, choosing slogans over inquiry and division over debate. This was the moment democracy abandoned its role as a tool for truth. This is not a condemnation of Trump as an individual. He is merely a mirror, reflecting a people that neglected thought, succumbed to emotion, and feared dialogue. What is now needed is to shed the myth of majority rule and once again live by questioning. Truth is not determined by the number of votes. Wisdom arises from the quiet of listening and the careful examination of words. I am Socrates. If I were to return in this age, I would cry out, "In your voting, did you feel the presence of the soul?" One night, while I was engaging in my usual debates at the Athenian marketplace, a young man asked, "Isn't the voice of the people what defines justice?" I responded, "Does it mean that simply because the crowd shouts, it is inherently good?" The ship named democracy flies a beautiful flag, but without a helm, it is easily swallowed by storms. And now, that flag is rocked by the waves of Trump. In 2016 and again in 2024, the choices made by the great nation of America reflected either a triumph for democracy or the manifestation of an unthinking mob. Supporters rejoiced and opponents despaired. But I believe the deeper question we must ponder is, why did this happen? For instance, do you know this statistic? According to a certain survey, over 60% of American voters consider opinions different from their own as the enemy. In an environment where dialogue is severed and even the recognition of the opponent's character is absent, the people's will rallies around those who can strike down the enemy. This clarity brought Trump into sharper view as a choice. By the time you finish listening to this script, a new question may arise in your mind. What is democracy? What is its essence? Why have we stopped thinking? Let me cast a light on this journey. We are living in strange times. Information is overflowing, everyone is speaking, and people are only believing what they want to believe. The agoras of the past have turned into social media platforms, conversations have become speeches, and questions have degenerated into insults. Democracy was supposed to be a system of deliberation. It was an endeavor to seek better choices by embracing diverse positions and perspectives, even if they included contradictions and conflicts. But now, what do we see? Populism is shouted loudly, and public opinion gravitates toward appealing words rather than truth. Trump stood at the pinnacle of this phenomenon. His words stimulated passion rather than logic, and appealed to emotions rather than facts. His style was a mirror reflecting the spirit of the times. His supporters were disillusioned with politics, felt anger toward existing systems, and thus were drawn to someone strong enough to berate the enemy. The divide has intensified, and forming consensus has become extremely difficult. Democracy has taken refuge in the convenience of majority rule, treating minority opinions as noise. As a result, the ignorance hidden within the majority has gained strength, while those who carry knowledge are dismissed as elites. It is reminiscent of when I was accused in Athens. The spirit of these times craves selected correctness over thought. When such correctness gathers, many truths quietly die. Surely, around you as well, there are those who raise their voices before listening to dissenting opinions. Without realizing it, they are destroying democracy. I am Socrates, a man who lived in ancient Athens, spoke of knowing one's own ignorance, and ended his life by drinking poison. Yet, the soul transcends time. Standing before this modern era, I feel compelled to speak once more. I once believed that to live truly well, one must first know what is good. The root of evil is ignorance of the good, and those who attempt to lead others without knowledge are the most dangerous. But what of today? People fear knowing and are absorbed in believing. Their faith is placed not in gods, but in empathy, peer pressure, and eloquent anger. When the masses are driven by these impulses in the name of democracy, there is no room for truth to stand. In Athens, I asked, "Is the good you believe in actually examined?" But now people refuse to be examined. Questions are misunderstood as attacks, and silence is deemed wise. Correctness is weighed by volume and numbers. This eerily resembles ancient Athens. The populace held power, dialogue was rejected, and those who questioned were feared. I was judged and silenced by death. In reality, it was the fear of the masses, exposed by questions to their own ignorance, that silenced me. Democracy should enable dialogue. Yet the phenomenon of Trump has reduced it to a binary of for or against. When complexity of thought is rejected and answers are rushed, people lose what is most important, the question. Were I born in this era, I would likely say the same. Is this truly good? And many might find me bothersome, avoid me, and once again seek peace through poison. But I will speak because at the moment silence prevails, democracy ends. Democracy is not just a system, it's a way of life. It's a technique for people to live together, premised on the continuous act of questioning. In today's society, this technique is profoundly misunderstood. Many people believe that those elected by voting decide everything. However, voting should not be the end point of judgment, but its beginning. Look at the background of Trump's election. Behind it lies a deep distrust of existing politics and the frustration of those who couldn't voice their concerns. This deserves understanding. Yet no matter how many votes an elected person garners, if they sever dialogue, democracy becomes hollow. I once said, "Virtue is knowledge." That is to say, to do good, one must first know what is good. So, what does it mean to know? It's to question, to listen to different perspectives, to confront discomfort directly, and to delve deeply into one's thoughts. Trump's rhetoric goes against this. He clearly divides friend from foe, simplifies complex issues, and claims we are the true America. This rhetoric is comfortable and easy to understand for the masses, but it does not cultivate knowledge. It sows anger and division. The true value of democracy does not lie in the majority winning. The essence is in the power to listen to the minority without ignoring their voices, and this endeavor comes with its inconvenience. Yet this very effort is what makes us human. The moment we abandon critical thinking, politics becomes theater. Those on stage seek applause, and the crowd consumes righteousness as entertainment. In this way, truth quietly exits the scene. I would ask this: will the person you chose nurture your soul? Let's conduct a thought experiment. Imagine you are at an election. There are two candidates. One is a figure like Trump, who speaks eloquently, channels the anger of the people, and challenges existing authorities. The other is someone who relies on reason and data to honestly convey complex issues, but struggles to be heard or resonate. Who would you cast your vote for? This question isn't just about a political choice. It's about your soul's stance in the context of democracy. People find comfort in what they can understand and feel a sense of kinship with those who share their anger. Figures like Trump captivate the masses with their empathy. However, if empathy were synonymous with justice, there would be no need for dialogue. The reason to listen to what lies beyond our understanding would vanish. Herein lies a dilemma. The more we respect the will of the people, the more our thinking slows down. The more we pursue truth, the more we diverge from the will of the people. The same happened in my era. I sought to enlighten the public, which resulted in fear and ultimately judgment. Good intentions distanced understanding, while ignorance bred comfort. People couldn't endure my questioning. So, What will you do? On this stage of democracy, will you choose rightness or comfort? Will you embrace questions or seek answers? Will you pursue dialogue or strive for victory? I will never impose an answer, but I believe that only those who continue to walk with this question can keep democracy alive. We now hold a new power called technology, but does it nurture knowledge, or is it merely a device that amplifies ignorance? Social media, algorithms, and big data deliver information instantaneously and give a voice to the voiceless. At first glance, they seem to deepen democracy. But what is the reality? Individuals find themselves surrounded by like-minded opinions, dismiss dissenting voices as disinformation, and retreat into small chambers of thought. I want to call this state freedom without dialogue. Because of their freedom, people shun being questioned and gather to affirm their own correctness. They are drawn to and resonate with the strong words of someone like Trump, eventually transforming into a faith mixed with anger and conviction. Democracy was never about technology, but rather an attitude. However, today we delegate that attitude too much to technology. The ability for everyone to speak and the willingness for everyone to listen are entirely different. The former has been achieved, but the latter is increasingly distant. Here lies the challenge for the future. To elevate democracy from a mere system to a culture, we need to transform technology into a platform for dialogue. We must design it to encourage questioning, open ears, and restore the spaces for silence and reflection. If I were to speak of the future, I would say this: democracy with closed ears is more terrifying than despotism, because there no dictator is needed, only a multitude of believers gather and erase other voices. Silence is often the most eloquent storyteller. There was a time when I stood in a corner of Athens, speaking to no one, eyes closed, and contemplated my questions. Questions aren't solely directed at others. They are what pierce us most deeply. Where does the righteousness I believe in come from? Is this anger a conclusion reached through thoughtfulness, or is it simply a mask for my fears? Have I ever truly attempted to understand someone else? Today, the world is noisy. The words of Trump, media condemnation, the cries of social media. But what would remain if we silenced all this noise? Truth can only be spoken in silence. It is not found in shouts, not in anger or approval, but within that voice rising from deep within when we close our eyes. That is the voice of the soul I sought in Athens. Democracy does not end at the polling station. It sprouts in daily thought and silence, in the choices, decisions, and doubts that occur when no one is watching or being told. These are the roots and soil of this system. And thus, I hope that questions will be found not in anger, but in silence. I hope the choice will be for quiet reflection, not applause. This hope is why I speak to this era once again. For democracy to regain its strength, it's crucial for individuals to reconstruct their way of living before reforming the institutions. I would call this the strategy of the soul. The foundation of my strategy is this: question what you think you know and open yourself to the unknown. Are the news you consume daily and your immediate emotional reactions to them truly well-considered judgments? I encourage you to cultivate the habit of asking yourself, is this really true? Here are 3 specific strategies to protect the soul in the modern era. 1. The habit of scrutiny. When you read the news, take a moment to reflect on your reaction. Ask, am I angry? Why am I angry? This is the first step in beginning to think critically. 2. The journey to opposing views. Deliberately listen to people who hold different opinions from yours. This is not concession. Rather, it is a challenge that deepens your soul. It's not about understanding them completely, but about glimpsing their world. This becomes a defense line for democracy. 3. Cultivate the space for dialogue. Dialogue is not about winning or losing. It's a space built on silence, pauses, confirmation, and layers of questioning. We don't need a victor here. What's necessary are fellow seekers. Infuse daily conversations with more questions and more room for thought. These strategies are modest. They don't resonate like grand speeches. Yet they are the most certain paths to cultivating the soil of democracy and the quietest resistance against phenomena like Trump. The path of the wise is forged not by shouting, but by questioning. What will you question today? What will you ask? If you feel a stir within your heart right now, it's surely a sign that questions are beginning to sprout. Truth always resides in quiet places. It doesn't grow amidst the clamor of people or the noise of applause. It lingers as a faint doubt after the voices of anger fade away. In those brief silences, the questions that emerge have the power to transform us. On the day democracy chose Trump, the world indeed trembled. But it wasn't a collapse of the system. It was a quieter, deeper, and unseen breach of trust. When the willingness to listen that should have existed between people vanished and words started being used as weapons in a battle, we tore democratic values apart with our own hands, and that blade wounds our own hearts more than anyone else's. That's why we must pause, take a deep breath, and listen closely to the echoes of our thoughts. What voices remain within you? I always believe this. True understanding only comes after silence. It is in those spaces that hope resides. Today, I'd like to leave you with a question. What does democracy mean to you? It's not just a system, nor is it a term from a history textbook. It's a way of life. It's the attitude of questioning, listening, accepting silence, and striving to get closer to the truth. The presence of Trump has exposed the imperfections of democracy. I believe that it is precisely these imperfections that make us human. The willingness to engage in dialogue, even amid mistakes, turmoil, and confusion, holds the key to the future. And that is why I speak again, transcending time and space from the day I drank the poison. On this channel, ancient thinkers like myself will continue to shed light on the chaos of the modern world, from the plazas of Athens to the depths of your heart at this very moment. If today's talk has become a spark in your thoughts, please subscribe to the channel, and let's meet again with the next question. Now, what thoughts linger within you? The day democracy chose Trump, truth died. I don't want you to take this simply as criticism. Instead, see it as a mirror held up to each of us, an unexamined daily life, uncritical conformity, unconscious anger. All these elements push truth further away. How did the content of this video make you feel? Discomfort, agreement, resistance, empathy? It doesn't matter which. What matters is whether your heart was moved. I wish to reinstate dialogue, this intangible skill in our world. The comment section is a small space for that. Please leave the questions and perspectives that have grown within you. They will become seeds for future dialogue. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. That is the beginning of everything. The moment you acknowledge, I still don't know, a door to a new world opens. I am always waiting for your questions because that is the continuation of the story of democracy. See you again in our next dialogue.